Now, a lot of my videos are going to be pretty technical, but really all the technical work that you do to a vehicle will amount to nothing if it's not being properly maintained. So at the request of one of my friends, today I'm going to be covering a standard oil change. Now obviously my oil change demonstration is going to be done on Nissan XTerra, my truck, but really the principles are the same. You take the oil out of the truck, you change the oil filter, and then you put the oil back in it. So we're just going to get started today doing a simple oil change. We'll cover the basics and then we'll talk a little bit about choosing the right oil and the right amount of oil afterward. So let's get started. Now, although doing an oil change is a relatively simple job, it's also pretty simple to screw up. So you want to make sure that you know where to put things when you're actually doing the job. So in this case, you want to make sure that you go locate the oil filler cap inside the engine compartment. Inside your engine compartment, there's probably, there's at least five different things that you can open up and fill with things: power steering, brake fluid, antifreeze, obviously your oil. There's 2 antifreeze places to put antifreeze in. So if you put oil in one of the other ones, then not the actual oil fill cap, you're going to be in a world of hurt. So you want to make sure that you locate that. Now in my case, my owner's manual actually drew out a little map for me in a few places throughout the manual that actually show me where the filler cap is. Obviously, I know where to find it. It has a little symbol on it, but really if you have any doubt at all about where to actually put the oil inside the engine compartment, reference that manual or even look it up online if you don't have a manual to your car for some reason. It's vitally important that you put it in the right place. So it'll have a little symbol like this. I'll put it on the screen here. Or in my case, it actually has a map. So right inside my manual, take a look and it spells it all out for you. Now, also when it comes to changing the oil filter, I also have a map. Now generally speaking, at the bottom of your car, it's pretty easy to spot an oil filter. They're usually, a color that's very different from your motor. Orange, red, white, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, some transmission filters look like oil filters. So you certainly don't want to mix those up or try to pull off a transmission filter. Then you just end up with a lot more work. So inside your manual should also be the location of the oil filter. But if you have any doubt, again, look it up, even call a dealership and say, hey, where it's at, where is it at? And that way you know that you're doing the right thing. Normally, since I have an SUV, I would not have to raise the truck up, but I went ahead and did that anyways, just to get a little more movement around here, and I have a camera down here, so it's just a little easier. But locate your oil sump. So in the Nissan, it's in the back of the motor, right in front of this first support here for the Okay, so since this is an XTerra, normally I wouldn't have to lift the truck to do the oil change. I can fit under it just fine. But since I'm bringing a camera under here and kind of doing a video, it's a little bit easier to move around. If you do have to lift your vehicle to do an oil change, when you are draining the oil, make sure you drop the car so you get as much oil out as you can. So for the oil sump in the XTerra, it's in the back, right in front of this crossbar, and the oil drain plug is right here on the passenger side of it. So you just want to loosen this, make sure that you have your drain pan ready, and that way you obviously aren't going to get anything all over your driveway or your garage, wherever you happen to be doing this. And also, this particular drain plug is a 14 millimeter, so I have a 14 millimeter ready, and you just want to loosen it, and then, there you go, break it, and then wait to loosen it all the way until you actually get your drain pan underneath it, and then just loosen it with your fingers and take it out, so that way you don't drop it into the actual pan. So we'll let that run and fully drain out, and then we'll get it out, we'll reseal it, and then we are going to change the filter. All right, so as the oil drains, just like when you empty really any maintenance fluid out of your vehicle, you want to take your filler cap off so there's air able to get in from the top of the system down to the bottom. All right, well, I just now realized how horrible the lighting was in that last shot, so I apologize, but I went ahead and lowered the car, let all of the oil drain out, and now I brought the car back up so I can get underneath it, and you can see that the oil plug is out, and we're done dripping. So we're pretty much good to go back in, but this is a great opportunity to take a look at your oil plug and make sure that if it does have any washer, in this case like a silicone rubber washer, you want to make sure that it's intact, it's not cracked or damaged. If it is, now's a good time to replace it. You can go up and get, you know, a high temperature silicone washer pretty much anywhere, but mine's good, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it back in. And it's best to just do this right away. Some people kind of let it drain while they do the oil filter. I always am pretty terrified about forgetting, so I always just put the plug back in as soon as I'm finished actually letting the oil drain, and then I just tighten it back up right away. Now, each car is going to have a different torque requirement for their oil plug. It's really not that big of a deal. If you were to ask Nissan, they'd probably say it would be, but at the end of the day, just get a good hand tight on it. This one, I think, says 22 to 26 foot-pound, so just a nice tight pull on that, you should be just fine. It's really not a big deal. You just want to make sure within a few days after doing the oil change to make sure you're not leaking any. So now that this is done, I'm going to move this oil out. We're going to let it sit, and then we'll talk a little bit about the oil, but first we're going to do the oil filter, and then we'll talk about filling it up. All right, so the Nissan actually has a skid plate in the front that covers up the oil filter. And to be totally honest, if you're doing the oil change on anything other than an XTerra or maybe some other SUVs that have skid plates, you can usually just get under the car and see the oil filter. You don't really need to take anything off. I have owned a absolutely ridiculous amount of vehicles, and this is the first time I've ever had to remove something to gain access to the oil filter. So I'm actually going to grab the camera and show you a few things under here that are of some importance. So hold on a second. All right, so this is the shot through the access hole in your skid plate. There is the actual oil filter, and then you also have this little pan here, which is nice, that will allow oil to fall down over top through the actual access port and not on the inside of your skid plate. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Make sure that you have your actual oil pan sitting down here ready to receive all the oil that's about to come out, and then we're just going to slide the new one on. All right, so I loosened the actual filter, so we're gonna let this drain just a little bit so we don't get completely covered in oil while we're trying to get it out. All right, so we let it drain enough. I'm gonna go ahead and just very gently get this out here. You wanna keep spinning, and eventually it's gonna pop off into your hand. Now we'll see how difficult it is to get it out of here. Oh, there we go. Ah, shoot. All right, there we go. All right, so just empty the filter into your oil pan, and then just make sure it's upright, and then just take it out and put it on like a paper towel or something on a protective surface that you're not getting all over the garage like I just did. So now that you have your used filter out of the truck, you can kind of take a look at it and make sure that it matches the new one that you bought. All right, so make sure it's the similar size, the same diameter, and obviously the screw hole's in the right place. Everything's where it should be. Sometimes the filters may be a little bit taller, a little bit shorter. That's really not that big of a deal. It's just more based on the design of the interior of the filter, but just make sure it's the right size. Now also, when you're putting a new filter onto your vehicle, you want to make sure that you get a little bit of oil here on this seal. This is important to make sure that you actually maintain a liquid tight seal between the filter and the motor. So I have one of the small quarts of the new oil, and I'm just going to dip my finger in it and just run it around this seal and make sure the entire seal is wet with the new oil. So once we've done that, we can put this back on, put our access plate back on, and then fill it up. All right, so I have the seal all lubed up, and then I just gotta guide it in and just basically install it the opposite way that it came on. So find the threads, start to twist, very good. So we have contact, and then just keep screwing till it's tight, and then just hand tighten this. You don't wanna go crazy on it. There are wrenches available for removing and putting them back on, but you really don't wanna go crazy on it. There's no reason to. So this is almost there. All right, so just a few good tight turns, make sure it's on there, and then we're just gonna seal up this hole. All right, so now that we've patched up the bottom, we have the new filter in, the oil plugs back in. Now all we need to do is actually refill the oil. So I have my regular oil funnel here, got that, and now I'm just gonna grab my oil and start filling it up. Now, the only thing to mention here about filling the oil is that you wanna make sure that you don't overfill, all right? You really don't wanna have to deal with that, because that means you have to drain more out, and you wanna do it, having to drain strategically is a huge pain, so really just be careful about how much you put in the first place. Now, the best course of action to take is just underfill it, knowing that you're actually gonna underfill it, and then just kind of work your way up from there. Check the oil, see what it's at, and then continue filling it up. So the Nissan takes 5 3/8 quarts, so just under 5.5. So I have a 5-quart jug here that I feel pretty safe kind of throwing the whole thing in. And then once I get to that last half quart, I'm gonna start checking the level with the level indicator, and then kind of working from there. So I'm gonna get this guy in, I'm gonna check it, and then we'll continue going forward. Now that we have the 5-quart jug in, I wanna stop and use the dipstick to check the fluid to make sure that I'm not overfilling it, because I'm getting close to the end here. So down below, grab your dipstick, and then use a clean paper towel and just wipe it off right away first. So just clean it off first. Don't even worry about checking it, because a lot of things are gonna splash around in there when you're pouring new oil in, things like that. So just clean it once, and then find it, put it back in. In this case, it's really far down there, so let me get it in there. All right, push it all the way in until it seals, and then pull it all the way back out and check your oil. Now, in this case, it looks like we're, you probably can't see it. We're actually pretty good, but what we wanna do for a last check is actually run the motor a little bit, let the oil get all the little places that it's gonna get, and then check it again and make sure that it's still in a good place. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we'll check again and see how it goes. So the engine ran for a few minutes. I didn't run it for terribly long. I didn't want to make it really hot to the touch. So we're gonna go ahead and grab this stick and use the same method as before. Just go ahead and immediately wipe it off. So clean it off first, and then put it back in and check again. So we slide it in here, all the way down until it seals, remember? All right, bring it back up, see where we're at. Okay, so sure enough, we're definitely on the low side now. So we're gonna put a little bit more in, make sure we're solidly into the safe area, and then we're ready to go. All right, that job is done. A few quick pointers I wanna go over while doing an oil change on your car. First and foremost, make sure you're getting the right oil. And check your owner's manual, it'll tell you what oil to get. In this case, it's a 5W30 for the Nissan 4-liter for this year, but yours may be different. So make sure you're picking out the proper oil. There's also the kind of synthetic versus conventional oil debate. Really, if you want to use synthetic, just make the move and continue using the synthetic. Don't switch back and forth consistently. So If you want to go synthetic, do it. It's certainly nice. That's what I decided to do on this one. Just don't change back to conventional. Also, wear gloves. If you don't have like a mechanic's glove, well, just use regular latex gloves. Make sure that they're solvent resistant, they're called, I believe. But definitely wear gloves, because the oil in these cars, especially the used oil, is really not good for you. You don't really want to bathe your hands in it. So, and then lastly, for the XTerra specifically, the skid plate access hole is great, but it's very sharp, which I realized I cut my wrist like 3 different places while getting the oil filter off and didn't realize it because I was concentrating on getting the oil filter off. But be very careful, it's surprisingly sharp. So that's the tip for the actual XTerra. Other than that, that's it. That's the end of the video. So if you have any questions, comments, or recommendations, certainly let me know. And thanks for watching.